Welcome back to Hope's Homemade Kitchen. You know, I've been doing a lot of savory recipes lately, a lot of meals. I'm kind of in the mood for something sweet. Today, I'm going to do a sour cream pound cake made in a bundt pan. So let me show you the ingredients and let's get started. So for the sour cream pound cake, I've got my big mixer out today. Now that's not required, but it does require some extended mixing, so you might want to pull yours out if you have one. I've got flour, baking soda, salt, sugar, unsalted butter, 6 eggs at room temperature. Now the eggs and the butter should be at room temperature. Almond extract, vanilla extract, sour cream. And if you don't have lemon extract, you could use a little bit of lemon juice, which is what I'm doing today. Now I'm going to be using a bundt pan, which I've greased and floured very well. For the icing, I'll be using some powdered sugar, some very fine salt, and some whipping cream. I've preheated my oven to 325 degrees Fahrenheit. Take 3 cups of flour, and then after you've measured the flour by spooning it into the cup and leveling it off, then you sift it. There's 1, 2, and 3. Now I sift it. I'm just using a fine mesh sift. If you have a flour sifter, go ahead and use that. Okay, a half a teaspoon of baking soda and a half a teaspoon of salt. Okay, I'm going to set those dry ingredients aside and we'll get to working on the butter sugar mixture. To the bowl of my mixer, I'll be adding 2 sticks or 1 cup of unsalted butter, and it should be at room temperature and very soft. Okay, I'm going to start my mixer on low. I'll add in 1 cup of sugar. Okay, that seems to be blended well. Then I'm going to add in the other 2 cups. So a total of 3 cups of sugar. So I'm going to set a timer for 3 minutes and let that go for 3 minutes. I'm going to stop every so often and scrape it down just to make sure it's getting everything incorporated. Okay, my timer went off for 3 minutes. Now I'm going to mix in my sour cream and keep it on low speed. That's 1 cup of sour cream. Okay, that's combined. Now I'm going to add in the vanilla extract, almond extract, and lemon. If you don't have lemon extract, you could use a little bit of lemon juice. You could use some lemon zest. Okay, a tablespoon of vanilla, a half a teaspoon of almond extract, and then I'm just going to add a little bit of lemon juice, and that is lemon juice concentrate. Okay, I'll mix that up just a little bit. Okay, in a separate bowl, I'm going to crack my room temperature eggs. So 6 large eggs at room temperature. Okay, I'm just going to whisk those up a little bit until they're combined. Okay, now the recipe says to alternate the wet ingredients with the dry ingredients and mix until it's completely incorporated. Okay, I'm gonna scrape it down. Now you can use a hand mixer. You don't have to have a big mixer like this. Okay. Okay, now that it's well incorporated, you want to distribute it evenly into the pan. Now this pan has been prepared. I greased it with butter flavored shortening and dusted it with flour. Now I'll put the recipe for the cake and the icing in the description box below in all the instructions. Now it says to tap this on the counter to remove any air bubbles. Now I'm going to put it in the middle rack of a 325-degree oven and cook it for 1 hour and 15 to 20 minutes, or until the toothpick test comes out clean. Okay, the cake is out of the oven, so if you do the toothpick test, it should come out clean. If you want to take the internal temperature of it using an instant read thermometer, it should be about 210 degrees. Okay, the cake has been out of the oven for about 20 minutes. I'm going to let it cool a little bit more while we make our icing. I've measured out 1 pound of confectioner's sugar. So I'm going to sift that into a large bowl. And I sprinkled a little bit of the fine salt in with it. And then I'm going to use my Trader Joe's cream, the shelf-stable cream. 12 tablespoons is what it calls for. The 16 ounces of powdered sugar sifted, 12 tablespoons of heavy whipping cream, generous pinch of fine sea salt, and a teaspoon of vanilla extract. Add in about a teaspoon of vanilla. I think that's going to be about right. If it's too runny, you might have to add more sugar. If it's too stiff, add more cream. Okay, so it's cooled a little bit more. I'm going to let it cool on the rack even more because I want to ice it on the rack. So let's see how this goes. All right, that came out, so I'm going to let it cool a little bit. I'm going to put some parchment paper underneath, and then we will ice it once it's a little cooler. Okay, now the cake is cooled off and ready to ice. And this is a simple butter cake. You can serve it with fresh fruit, fudge sauce, ice cream, or just by itself with coffee. That's probably the best way to do it. You could also just have this without icing. It would be just fine. That made a lot of icing. You'd probably be fine halving that amount. And there we go, the finished cake. And then we'll do a taste test. Get that beautiful cake on the inside. This would be great with coffee or tea. That is really buttery, sweet, and moist. You're gonna love this cake. That's perfect plain, or you could use it as like a strawberry shortcake too. Put strawberries or fresh fruit on it, whipped topping, delicious. Thank you for joining me on Hope's Homemade Kitchen. Please like, subscribe, and share with your friends. We'll see you next time.